And there are worries because there are aspects of Muslim law that simply are unacceptable. The dealings with women, the idea that women should inherit only half the property and that men should, their testimony is worth more than women. Those aspects of Sharia are incompatible with our legal...
What's up, YouTube? Hope you guys are feeling good. My name is Elaru, and today I'm boxing the video and check out with you guys. This is called They Want Control. Douglas Murray schools leftists on Islamic Sharia law in the UK. This is bound to be tough. But you know how it goes, guys. We talk less and we react more. Let's check this out.
In today's video, we're diving into a critical discussion that touches the very core of cultural integration and legal ethics in Western societies. We're discussing Douglas Murray's perspective on the integration of Sharia law into the UK's legal system. This is a subject that affects not just the legal framework, but also the societal values in Europe and beyond.
Well, Jeffrey Robertson is still with us, and also we're joined now by writer and commentator Douglas Murray. Thanks very much for coming in. If I can start with you, as a top lawyer, how comfortable are you with Sharia being brought into the fold, as it were?
Well, comfortable-ish. It's being brought into the fold under the Human Rights Act, and you can appeal from these arbitration tribunals, which have one Muslim lawyer and one academic, to the courts, and I think that's very important. Beth Din has had this system for Jewish people for many years, and there are worries because there are aspects of Muslim law that simply are unacceptable. The dealings with women, the idea that women should inherit only half the property and that men should, their testimony is worth more than women. Those aspects of Sharia are incompatible with our legal...
Well, so then do you not see a potential for clash? I mean, you can't cherry-pick the beliefs you want.
And I think this is the important thing. At the end of the day, there is a potential for compromise, and there is a potential for renuancing Sharia law so that it is more compliant with human rights. And I think because these tribunals are within the system, and because the courts can overrule them, I think there is a real possibility that they will be, in the long run, helpful.
Right, and there is the safety net. If one doesn't like what the Sharia arbitration suggests, there is UK law to fall back on. So what's the problem?
Sharia, or Islamic law, derives from the Quran and Hadith, guiding all aspects of a Muslim's life, from daily routines to major life decisions. While it's predominantly known for governing personal matters such as marriage, divorce, and inheritance, its scope is far broader, influencing financial dealings and even criminal law in some Islamic countries. In the UK, the presence of Sharia is not embodied in official courts, but rather in councils that function under the Arbitration Act. This act, originally intended to facilitate the resolution of commercial disputes, now allows these councils to offer binding decisions on civil matters. The councils typically handle cases like marital disputes or inheritance issues, providing a means for Muslims to resolve their disputes within the framework of their religious beliefs. This arrangement has prompted a significant discussion about the role of religious laws in a secular country. How do these councils operate? Who oversees them? These are councils, not courts, yet they wield a form of legal authority that can have a profound impact on those who use their services. For instance, while these councils can grant religious divorces, which are recognized by the community, they do not dissolve legal marriages under UK law, potentially leading to conflicts and confusion. Douglas Murray's stance brings to light these critical issues, questioning whether the embrace of Sharia law under the Arbitration Act compromises the uniform application of justice. The fundamental concern here is not merely about legal pluralism, but about ensuring that all individuals, regardless of their religious affiliations, receive fair and equal treatment under the nation's laws.
Well, you'd hope that there was, but sadly that doesn't seem to be always the case. The Sharia court featured in your film, the Muslim Arbitration Tribunal, has, by its own admission, heard 6 cases that really have strayed from the civil into the criminal. 6 women who were abused and who, instead of being referred to the police, by the MAT had their cases overheard by the MAT. Another case was a Muslim man who died, didn't leave a will. The MAT decided to arbitrate his will according to Sharia, so the daughters got half of the money for their brothers. So the question here is not just whether, in the words of Sadiq Khan, the MP who said last month, asked whether or not the Muslim community in Britain is sophisticated, was his word, enough to have a parallel legal system, but also who's driving it. And sadly, and I've seen this many times, spoken to people who run these courts, the people who are driving the desire for more Sharia in this country are not the progressive Muslims.
Well,
they are people who are the most regressive Muslims in the Muslim community here.
Taking your point, but isn't it just too late? It's a well-rehearsed argument. We had this when we talked about faith schools. If Beth Din is allowed to exist in this country, on what premise can you say, well, you're fine, but you're not fine?
Well, in a way, it's it's an extra legal argument. Beth Din are voluntary, and you can decide whether or not to be arbitrated by them. The question I think we have to ask as a society is if we want parallel communities, which would actually be very hard for particularly women to actually volunteer for. Would the state, for instance, have any guarantee that a woman who a Sharia court said had volunteered for arbitration had volunteered for arbitration? I was in parts of the north of England last week, on the so-called no-go zones, speaking with women in particular whose lives have been ruined in some cases by the installation and the propulsion increase of Sharia law in this country. It's a question of whether or not they have volunteered. I don't think the state can make that decision.
Well, that's an important decision that we've got to, and I go along with you to this extent.
Very briefly, Mr.
I don't think
Robertson.
there should be no involvement in the criminal law. You're quite right. The police should prosecute irrespective of any recommendation from one of these tribunals. Secondly, we need a special overseer. We need a special counsel to check that, first of all, that these cases which are in breach of the Human Rights Act, like the one you mentioned and I mentioned, of the giving women half the will, should be appealed, and to ensure that, in fact, those who are going through this parallel arbitration, which is faster than the courts, are really, the women are genuinely agreeable.
I'm going to have to bring the gavel down at that point because we have run out of time, but thank you very much.
Douglas Murray emphasizes the stark contrasts in how Sharia law and Western laws approach gender equality, particularly focusing on issues like inheritance and legal testimony. Under traditional interpretations of Sharia law, women often face significant disadvantages. For instance, in matters of inheritance, a woman may receive only half the share that a man would receive. Similarly, the testimony of a woman in many Sharia courts is considered half as valuable as that of a man's. These practices not only reflect deep-seated cultural norms, but also raise profound concerns regarding basic human rights and equality under the law. Such disparities come into sharp focus in Western societies, which are grounded in principles of gender equality and human rights. The UK, like many Western nations, has laws and statutes that provide equal rights for men and women, both in public and in the judicial system. The potential incorporation of Sharia principles that inherently discriminate against women into this legal framework poses a significant ethical and legal dilemma. These aspects of Sharia are fundamentally incompatible with Western values, which prioritize individual rights and equality before the law. This incompatibility is not just a theoretical issue, but has practical implications for Muslim women in the West, who may find themselves bound by community pressures to adhere to traditional rulings that compromise their rights and freedoms as recognized by the state. The concern is that by accommodating these regressive views under the guise of cultural tolerance, Western societies might inadvertently pave the way for forms of legal and social governance that mirror the authoritarian or totalitarian structures seen in some Muslim-majority countries. In these nations, Sharia law often serves as a tool for maintaining strict control over personal behavior and societal norms, sometimes at the expense of individual freedoms and rights, particularly those of women and minority groups. The concern about regressive views leading to a form of totalitarianism is not just hypothetical. When legal systems based on rigid, non-progressive interpretations of religion gain legitimacy, they can affect more than just their immediate community. They can challenge the very framework of secular democracy and human rights that define modern Western nations.
This was tough. But then the question is, should Sharia law be integrated into the legal framework of the UK? Well, I'm not going to have a yes or no answer to that question. As the first speaker said, there are some parts of the Sharia law that they don't quite agree with, or that the Western values don't quite agree with. But he believes in the long run it's going to be helpful. Now, Douglas is of the opinion that it really shouldn't be necessary because more and more conflict will arise. Now, I'm just gonna ask this question real quick, and you can leave your answers in the comment section based on what you think and how you feel. As a Westerner, do you think the Sharia law should be integrated into your legal system? And on the other hand, as a man or a woman living in an Islamic state, would you have the Western culture or the rules governing the Western body integrated into your laws? Would you merge them? This is for both sides. I believe deep down, after all the reviews, we should know the answer to this particular question. The thing is, most African countries are actually mixed with the Muslims, the Christians, in fact, people from different walks of life and different religions. And I don't know if there's any particular region in Britain or any other Western country that has a particular area for the Muslims or for people of other sects. Now, in that case, I believe their laws can be upheld there. But there's still the general law overseeing the whole country. Yeah, there's still general law overseeing the whole country. In that particular area where they are more numbered, then maybe a certain freedom should be given to them to practice, be it the Sharia law or whatever law it is that coincides with their religion. And basically, if there isn't, then would it be fair to the, will I use the word owners here? Would it be fair to the owners of the country to have a foreign law integrated into their legal system? I have no idea what your thoughts on this are. I have no idea what your comments are. But please do well to leave them in the comment section. Well, based on that, there really isn't much to say, because if we're going to use the examples of people living in some of these African states or some of these countries, then almost nobody or almost everybody won't really like to have their laws overridden by other laws or their laws being merged with foreign laws. But as I said, guys, let's see what you think. Please leave your thoughts and your answers in the comment section, and leave a thumbs up at the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and stay safe.